We're going to revisit culture, but from a different perspective. And the question to ask is, should you feel any pride about your culture and your background?
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm way more mature than I was when I was a teen, I would 100% say yes. I mean, it's who you are. It is your identity. And I think your identity is, I wouldn't say changed, but you get to figure yourself out as you grow up, as you go through different phases of life. Sometimes you want to be someone that you cannot. You want to be like that popular kid. You want to be like the people on TV. But that doesn't really fit your personality, doesn't fit your character. And you learn that through the years as you grow up and become more mature, become wiser. But yeah, you should be proud of your heritage. If for some reason you don't like your people, that doesn't mean you should shun them, hate them, not go into their, not go into the community, not mingle with them, because that's bad on you. You don't isolate yourself from the community. Look at their plus points. I think every community in this world has a plus point.
Is it different to say that I appreciate my background and my history, my heritage and my culture, and saying I'm proud? Some people would make the argument that why should you be proud? You've done nothing. All you've done is be born into this culture.
No, it doesn't. It depends what you mean when you use the word proud or pride. We don't mean it in a negative way or a nationalistic way. Pride as in the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has a hadith that the love of your country, hubbul watan min al-iman, the love of your country is a sign of iman. Wow. It is a sign of faith. But what does that mean? Is the Holy Prophet encouraging racism? Is he encouraging nationalism? Or is he encouraging, for everyone to come under a different flag? That's not what he's encouraging. What he's encouraging is that you are true to your heritage, and that wherever Allah has placed you, you are true to those.
You respect
that ethnicity and that background. And for people like us who are now living in the West and our parents are from the East, it's very sad when Western-born children are forgetting the traditional Eastern cultures and their roots, and they don't even speak the language anymore. Especially in the Pakistani community, a lot of them, it's very difficult to find someone who speaks the language now. For me, it's very important for us to be true to our heritage, to our culture, to our ethnicity. With culture, of course, as long as it doesn't contradict Quran and Sunnah, Quran and the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, there's no harm in it. Scholars have said time and time again, as long as it doesn't contradict the teachings of Quran and Ahlul Bayt, there's no problem in it. You can adopt to it. Someone from Iran may be of a different culture, someone from Iraq or Pakistan or Lebanon or China, India, they have different cultures that unite them in their societies.
Would you guys consider yourself to be cultural?
I do.
Yeah.
I think we can't escape from it even if we wanted to.
You can't escape from it.
Not that it's a bad thing.
As long as it doesn't, like I said, doesn't contradict the teachings of Quran, as long as there is nothing haram involved in it, yeah, we are cultural, and it's a good thing.
I really like something that you just said, that I think if you were to go against your ethnicity, your race, and say, oh, I hate where I'm from and I hate why I'm involved with these people because I was just born into that society, I think you're disrespecting the one who put you in that society.
Yeah.
I think
but
that's
it's not always easy.
Disrespect
it's not always easy to look at from that perspective, because a lot of the times when we grow up in our families, and if there is any Islamic education, it's not in the way that people are taught to appreciate things, but rather what happens is that the cultural aspect of it gets combined with the Islamic aspect, and then oftentimes people think, well, why am I being forced to do something when I have no idea what's going on? So I think that's the extreme that people are at. So if that's the group of people, the boys you're telling to, you're telling them that you're disrespecting your culture, they're going to be thinking, well, no one ever gave me good enough reason to follow this in the first place, and it's being imposed on me like it's a religious law. So why should I feel like I'm disrespecting it? What do you have to say to that?
Whose fault is that, first of all? Is that the parents' fault for not educating their child at the right time, in the right phase of their life? Or was that person just a bad apple and didn't want to listen to his parents even though they tried everything? These are two possible scenarios. I think if education was there for that child as he or she was being brought up, and the parents helped them, understood where they're from and their heritage, I think they would grow up respecting it. Yeah. Whether they do not like certain elements of it. I know there are people that really do not like, for example, my community, the Pakistani community, and therefore they've stopped coming to the mosques. I think to themselves, well, that's on you. You don't have to stop coming and elevate yourself and your spiritual self and, you know, doing good and what have you. Find a different one that you like to go to. You know, don't stop coming to a certain mosque because you don't like how things are functioning. Well, that's management. That's a management issue. Okay, that, yes, it's linked to culture, but that's, I think, lack of education. That's ignorance that causes them to do that, and it causes dissension between the communities, within the communities, and it's a real problem right now.
A lot of times, I think the parents are to blame, because when the kids are getting older, the parents become upset. Oh, my son doesn't like my country. He's too Western, or he's too European. He doesn't want to go back to, you know, Pakistan or Iraq or wherever you're from. But the problem is, how often did you take him
Exactly.
as a child? They don't even take their kids. They don't want to take them. 5-10 years go by and they haven't been once. Take them in the summer holidays.
Did you even speak to them in that original language
Yes.
that you were brought up,
Exactly.
their mother tongue, or was it just English, even though you spoke
How
English
much did you
correctly?
praise your heritage?
Exactly.
How much did you teach them of your ethnicity and background? Take them. That's why they lose the language and they lose the culture. And this is the first generation. God forbid the second and third generation.
Do you guys think that by people being disconnected from their culture, that will have any effect on their religion, in the sense of their connection with God?
Yes, it can. I think it can have an impact because we're brought up in a certain lifestyle, we have a certain upbringing, and we view God in a certain way that our culture has taught us. And if we can get rid of the culture, but then you have to adopt another one. And that is the rope that is attached to God, and that's the rope that you're climbing to get to Him. But if you cut off that rope, cut off that culture, cut off all that ties, what does that leave you with? You think you're going to create your own rope to God. Well, good luck. Maybe you can. You're a genius, and you're really out there. You're really wise. Maybe Allah has guided you in a different means as possible. But yeah, it has a great impact. I think cultures do have a great impact on people, and if they were to leave it, that will affect their relationship with God.
I mean, personally, I had a cultural upbringing. I didn't understand religion much whatsoever, but so although I didn't have the aspect of the pride of my culture and my heritage, and I wouldn't personally, even though, you know, there are positive connotations to being proud, it's something that I'd never be comfortable with using. But for me personally, I always felt like just going to the religion directly and taking the culture out of it is what helped me. So I was wondering if there's any explanations you can give within that kind of context.
I think the important thing is to realize when there's a clash between religion and culture,
Yeah.
religion wins. It should win.
And there's plenty of these clashes.
There's so many of these
Plenty.
clashes. The thing to remember is whenever there's a clash between culture and religion, you take the side of religion. You give religion
But you know
more
the problem is,
importance.
bro? The problem is when people think that this cultural value is actually religious.
Well, that's where education comes in.
Yeah.
I
Awareness.
totally get you. And that's a main problem, especially to our elders. They're like so fixed into this because they've been doing it for the last 30, 40 years. And that's what their parents did, and that's what their parents
But
did.
we can't expect the elders to change their ways. It is what it is. So how do we change our ways? You know, how do we, the brothers in our late
But
teens and 20s?
we're not telling you to drop culture.
Yeah,
Civilizations thrive on culture. You know? Well, you can never get rid of culture.
Of course.
It's not going to happen. It's impossible. You cannot take culture away from civilizations. They're together. Bam. There's a relationship that you cannot break. But what you can do as a new generation is maybe soften, the bridge a little bit. Maybe connect them together, make it a little bit more lighter. If certain things are very harsh and strict in certain culture, you can become, take it a bit more lightly.
Just because it's difficult, like you're saying, you should never fail to address the problem, address the situation, no matter who you're talking to, who your audience is, especially the elderly. Just because it's difficult what you're about to achieve, it's a big, massive challenge. Never stop trying to educate yourself, people around you, people you care about, and keep trying again and again.
For young brothers or just brothers in general, where would that education start? Because we're throwing the word around a lot, but what does it actually mean? In what kind of sense? I mean, there's different types of education, but in terms of this context, how can we start? Where can we point to?
Well, it could start. The parents can start it at home.
Yeah.
It's the job of the scholars, the learned, the academics, schools, universities. It's everyone's job. If the parents don't do them, then when the child grows up, if he is interested, it depends where he's interested at the end of the day. He may
And
not
if
be
he's
interested.
still on the right path,
Then he
it
can
could
do
be
it
too late.
himself. Like you yourself said, you learned it yourself, right?
yeah,
So-
you took the effort and you did it yourself, and fantastic. But not everybody's going to be like you. And if the parents aren't educating their children, they will go out, perhaps get into the wrong circle of friends, and that's where they receive their education. For
I see
example.
some mosques, some people have complained that some mosques are very, very cultural.
Yeah,
Revered brothers and sisters feel unwelcome in certain mosques because the culture is so dominant,
yeah.
and you can feel it in the environment as soon as you step into them, into these mosques. You have a smirk on your face.
It's like,
I
am I
think,
still in England, man?
I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying every mosque should change, but at least those mosques which see a large turnout from revered brothers and sisters should make some change, or should take some steps towards neutralizing this a little bit to welcome the revered society. Whereas certain mosques which only see a certain culture or a certain country or a certain province that attends this mosque, maybe it's not a huge deal. Maybe they don't have to do such a big change for that mosque. But certainly those mosques which are seeing a great, in Muharram, great turnout from revered brothers and sisters, definitely they should do something to welcome those revered brothers and sisters. Definitely they should provide
They have to accommodate them.
They have to
And
accommodate for
even
them.
if we leave the reverts out for a second, the children that are being brought up in the society,
Yeah.
for example, they don't, like you said earlier, they don't necessarily speak the language, yet you always invite the speakers that speak the original
The native
language, the native tongue, and the kids are zoned out. They're like, oh, we have to be here because we have to.
Yeah.
There's nothing for them, and it's torture for those little kids. They don't know what else to do. They'll just sit there, play their little PSP or whatever.
For them, Muharram is become a culture where you go and sit,
You wear
and
black
someone
clothes,
shouts off
yeah.
the mimbar, and you're just using your phone, and at the end there's food and there's a
always
azadari,
good,
and
though.
you go home.
100%.
That's-
And great credit and kudos to
Yeah.
those mosques and imam bargas and centers which have understood the need for this, and they've accommodated the children as well as the reverse. And I know they're out there, and I've been to them myself, and I think they've done a fantastic job. And God bless them, and I wish that others take them as a lead and follow them as well. So,
Definitely. I mean, going back to myself, as I said, I did have the cultural upbringing, but what's interesting is that since I've come closer to Islam and Allah, and because of the whole issue surrounding our heritage that's been destroyed, and because what happens is when your heritage is destroyed, you lose a connection to an extent, and that loss of connection, it causes you to lose your identity. So when I see that, I think to myself, you know what? I've also lost a sense of identity of not knowing who my people used to be, and because if you know who your people were and how you got here, then you understand things in context, and you can appreciate the journey that people have been through, and that allows you to appreciate others more. So I think if anyone, whoever's watching, and they're thinking to themselves, you know what, I know what you guys are saying, but I just can't get with the program. I think start with just trying to get close to Allah first, because when you get closer to Allah, you discover yourself more, you discover what you're about, you appreciate the world you live in, you appreciate others,
yeah.
and you want to understand where you came from.
In your case, you obviously gave a personal example. I think you have now an opportunity to create a new identity for yourself. Obviously, you're not going to go back to your roots and your grandparents and your ancestors like early 1800s or 1900s. You will not have the same identity as them. You are now in a situation where you are, I think, able to create your own identity. And that's a privilege in a way, if you want to look at it. I mean, that's a silver lining to your story anyway, that you can now say, I'm partially this and I'm partially this, and that's my identity. And that's who I am. And now you got to worry about your kids as well.
And the beautiful thing is it allows me to be open to other cultures.
Yeah.
And because of my upbringing, it's given me that door to open, and I can go through that path.
Yeah, 100%. So look at these challenges as opportunities, I would say.
This has been it's been an interesting session, but that's what we have time for. So until next time, guys.